Councillors, staff, gentlemen of the gallery, welcome to the ordinary meeting of Council of the City of Prospect for Tuesday the 26th of August 2014. I'd like to acknowledge the land we meet on today is the traditional land of the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge that the Kaurna people are the custodians of the Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still important to the living Kaurna people today. Now read you the Council prayer. We humbly bow before thy throne of mercy, O God, our Heavenly Father, and seek wisdom and understanding as we face the duties of our united task, praying for the welfare of our city and the peace and prosperity of our land. In the name of Jesus Christ our Lord, amen. Please be seated. On leave we have nil, and apologies we have from Councillor Harris up until about 7:15, so he will be with us. He's flying in, I understand, so well, that goes well. Confirmation of minutes of the ordinary meeting of Council for Tuesday the 22nd of July. I have someone wishes to move that. Councillor Barnett wishes to speak to it. Seconded by Councillor Roberts wishes to speak to it. Any further debate? All those in favour? Against? Carried, thank you. Mayor's report on page 1182, 1183. Nothing further to add. It is as presented. Anybody wish to move the accepted? Councillor Lee wish to speak to it. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Deputy Mayor Approved wish to speak to it. Any further debate? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Verbal reports from council representatives on local government or community organisations. Do we have any verbal reports from reps? Councillor Dixon.
I rise to speak as the board member of Wastecare. Considering the gallery is here, I should explain Wastecare was a council regional subsidiary formed 10 years ago with the closing of Greenfield to make sure we could still get rid of our waste, both hard and red bin waste. Within the 42-year contract, or 42-year lease of the site, there was an option to bow out of it after 10 years and sell it to Trans-Pacific Industries. We're hoping they've still got some money after their events at the bottom of the hill the other day, for them to buy out the assets of the subsidiary at the end of this year. As the board, now that there are a lot more options available where we can lower the cost of getting rid of our waste, we've decided to enforce the buyout option and go to tender. We've now received the tender results. I can't give them because they're confidential, they're commercial in confidence, but I can say we will be saving the ratepayer a substantial amount of money over our past costs. But I should add, our past costs have actually already been just about the cheapest in Adelaide compared to some of the other contracts that have been around. So it's a real win-win. At the last board meeting on Thursday, we formally decided, we had in principle decided before, but we formally decided to determine and end the Wastecare SA as a legal body. That saves a further $7 a tonne, which was the management cost of running it. So the reduction, I won't give the amount in dollars because somebody that's clever enough will whip it into a calculator and work out what the tender cost was, which I'm just not allowed to give out. And that will come to council on the 9th of September as a confidential report. Other benefits to this are a couple of other councils have decided they may want to come in, which will lift the tonnage, which may reduce our costs even further. So this we're waiting to see. But as it stands, all working well, at the end of this year, we will receive back as 6 councils the $11 million for the refund for the purchase of the assets, which will put $550,000, being 5%, into the hands of the City of Prospect. As I understand it, we split it amongst the councils, but I'm not sure about that. But no, it's $550,000 that goes back into the race pool, and yeah, it's a good win, and it's saved us a lot of money over the last 10 years.
Thank you. Any further reports from representatives on local government or community organisations? No, in case we'll move on. Thank you. Questions with notice we have nil. Questions without notice, do we have any questions without notice?
Yes.
Councillor Dixon.
Consequent to the last council meeting, certain requests were made of Councillor Priest, and considering the email he sent us when he basically refused to be involved in what was sought of him, I ask as follows. Having elected to stand for the high office of Mayor, such to become the principal spokesperson of Council, there's a thought, will Councillor Priest hereby commit unequivocally to refund to the ratepayers and residents of the Prospect the approximately $60,000 his bullying and brutish behaviour has depleted their rates revenue, a request recently made by other elected members of the City of Prospect unanimously.
I'll take the question. It's not a question for the staff. It is a question directed to yourself, Councillor Priest. Did you wish to address it?
No.
So, no, you don't wish to address it, or no, you won't be repaying?
No, I won't wish to address it.
Councillor, any further questions about notice?
Yes, I have. At the same time, the Council was required, by the 15th of August, which is now passed, that he issue a written apology to the woman he bullied and frightened, a significant member of the City of Prospect, a volunteer that runs the community gardens, so much so that we named her the Citizen of the Year, and as I understand it, she has received no written apology.
Sorry, you've got a question in there
The
somewhere.
question is, has he yet, as required, forwarded a written apology to the person in question?
I will direct that to the governance manager, because I understand they're looking after that process. So, Manager, you're aware that an apology has been received or not received by the complainant? Yes, ma'am.
Yep. Through you, the complainant has advised that she hasn't received anything by the 15th.
But she's not received an apology. Okay. Councillor Priest, did you wish to add anything further?
Yeah, well, that's incorrect because I actually did issue an apology in writing to the person in context.
So the complainant is wrong?
Yes.
Okay, so we might take that one on notice, Councillor, because there seems to be a difference in opinion.
Yeah, I was given to understand she had not yet received the apology, which was sought by the 15th of August.
Governance Manager will advise us. Sorry, Governance Manager, when was the latest you heard from the complainant about receiving an apology?
Through the 19th of August.
19th of August, it was due on the 15th of August. Okay, all right, thank you. Any further questions, Councillor Dixon?
No.
Okay, any further questions about notice?
Yeah, look, I'll bring to your attention that an email from Councillor Dixon that was sent to everybody, and I consider it, in my own opinion, the bullying and intimidation email. This is the email in question. Now, you replied to that email. The councillor pointed out he was wrong in sending the email and also wrong in his aggressiveness off the email. Can you tell me, has there been a code of conduct done against the councillor for writing such an email to staff and to elected members?
Well, I'm sorry, Councillor, I'm not aware of the email because I can't see it. And you wrote it. You replied to it. You wrote it. You replied to the email. What's this one? Yeah. And that's all emails. Thank you. Thank you, though. You've got a copy. Okay. The answer is, Councillor, that the Council has requested that code of conduct complaints go to the CEO as the public officer. So I'm not aware of a code of conduct complaint. I suggest you direct your question to the CEO. Unfortunately, his apology for tonight, but the Manager of Governance will provide us some information on notice.
And do you know also, a follow-up question, do you know if the councillors have issued an apology over this email?
I'm aware that the Councillor hasn't been asked to provide an apology to Council, nor to anyone else as far as I'm aware. But Manager of Governance, are you aware that there's been a complaint provided to the CEO for a code of conduct breach?
And no, I'm not aware of any.
Aware of any?
Follow-up.
I seek to make an explanation on the issue, Your Worship.
Seek to make a personal explanation. Just hang on a tick. Are we able to set that in this section?
No.
Okay.
need to seek leave of the meeting to receive a personal explanation, Councillor. If you'd like me to do so, I can ask your colleagues. Okay. Let's see how we go. Councillor Dixon's asked for leave of the meeting to provide a personal explanation regarding the item just raised by Councillor Priest. Those providing permission for that leave? Those in favour? Against? Leave is not granted. Thank you. Councillor Priest, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, I do. A couple of council meetings ago also, Councillor Dixon made an assertion that I had nothing to do with the community garden. I since had requested from the CEO to forward all my motions in regards to the community garden, that I'd actually moved about 4 of them.
Sorry, question to you, Councillor. Sorry, the Councillor's pointing at you to ask a question.
My question to the Chair is, do you think the Councillor should issue an apology to me because he was proven incorrect?
You're asking me personally? Yes. No.
Okay, thank you very much.
The records indicate who moved those items, and you've reminded people. Your indication was that by moving items in the council meeting that you're heavily involved in the community garden.
So I was heavily involved.
Yep. Well, sorry, you raised this. You asked me first to explain my answer to your question. I'm advised by several members of the community garden that you've had very little involvement in actually implementing on the ground.
Didn't say never ever said that I had implemented on the ground either.
Sorry, your indication at the meeting to which you raised the point that the council responded to has 2 parts to it. You certainly made it correct in giving us the records.
4 motions.
This forum here, yes, you're heavily involved in it.
4 motions on council that I moved.
No question. But the inference was beyond that.
Thank you.
Now, we have any other exciting questions about notes? Councillor Roberts.
I'm just mindful of the agenda tonight with the petition that's going to be received. Just asking a question, I guess, without notice for fellow councillors group and Dixon, that we just have it noted that we are DAP members. I know the declaration is at point 12, so I just thought, can we have that brought up so that our interest can be noted?
Sorry, yeah, that's item 12 on the agenda.
Yeah, so if we can have that.
Manager Governance, I don't think they can declare an interest any time. Yeah, so that's the item on the agenda at 12 is to remind us, but it's not the only time we can say so. So when we move that item, we wish to note.
So that in the next section, number 9.
That's right. That's a good question. Okay, any further questions about notes? Okay, we'll move on to item 9, which is the petition, 9.1 regarding the proposed 4-storey cinema complex development with the recommendation on page 1185. And if Ms Anne Smith could come forward and take a seat up here on my left, actually. Point of order, Councillor.
Perhaps others, if Anne's going to speak under the Local Government Act, because we're members of DAP, we may not participate in any discussion on any matter that will come before or may come before DAP. So I and certainly the others need to excuse ourselves.
Okay. Well, just for the benefit of the gallery, it does place 3 councillors in a bit of a bind. The legislation enacted by the state government sets all the planning framework. They also set all the rules about how we administer the planning system. Council's bound by those rules, and they state that we have to delegate our planning decisions to the staff or to the Development Assessment Panel. The panel has 7 members. 4 of them are not council members, they're what we call independent members, and 3 of them are elected members. So just like the elected members who are on that panel, just raise your hand just to indicate. Okay, so what Councillor Dixon is saying is that he has to respect his role on both the panel and the council. It is embarrassing because the state has set this rule up and we have to follow it. And the rule says that the panel members must go into the meeting having equal knowledge and unbiased when they walk in the room. Very difficult thing to achieve. If they participate in a debate with you or the applicant or a consultant or anybody else that not the whole panel has been exposed to, they're at risk of being in breach of the regulations. I'm sure if you ask people around the table whether they were sensible regulations, you get a variety of opinion. However, they are the regulations, okay? So what Councillor Dixon is saying is, recognise I'm on the panel and that I may choose to leave the room, I may choose to stay, but I won't be saying anything about the petition. Please don't be insulted because I'm asking questions of the petition. Right, so just thought I'd better explain that because Councillor Dixon would be unable to do so from his position. And just to further clarify, Councillor Dixon, you intend to stay and listen to the presentation?
No, I really think that the Act is quite clear. We should not be in the room.
That's a personal decision, so you're signalling that you will leave the room. Can I just take the liberty of asking Councillor Group what you intend to do?
I'll also leave the room.
Thank you. Councillor Roberts? So we're about to hear the pet petitioner, so I suggest that probably now's the time for you to do that.
Is a quorum necessary to hear?
A quorum is not necessary to accept that it is. We now have 1, 2, 3.
We can accept it, but I think we would then.
No, you'll have a conflict if you accept it as well.
No.
That was made quite clear.
Come back in.
We'll get you back in and then you can make your own decision about whether you are happy to participate in the debate about accepting or not. Okay? Thank you. And if comply needs to be beyond the issue. Please leave it open.
No.
So there's a lot of rules. It's a public meeting. It has to be open. Okay, so we are all nonetheless attentive, Ms. Smith. So for the purposes of the record, if you could state your name and address.
Okay, Anne Smith, that's 41 Rose Street, Prospect.
Thank you, and you have 5 minutes.
Thank you. To the Mayor, Council and Councillors of Prospect, as indicated in the petition, the residents of Myrtle, Labrina, Rose, Azalea and Polsford Streets wish to communicate and voice their objections to the inadequate car parking relating to the Maris Group development of the 4-storey complex of cinemas, cafes, boutiques and office space being proposed on the corner of Rose Street and Prospect Road. There are a number of key concerns, the first one being quite simply grossly inadequate car parking. The increased span of hours that residents without the proper planning for car parking will have imposed on them, and the traffic management impacts such as noise, congestion, increased traffic throughput, but to name a few. Adding the numbers, the proposed 53 car spaces preferred in the current proposal by the developer are grossly inadequate for the style and size of the development under its current scope, 9 cinemas just for a start. Given that there will be an expected 110 staff working at the complex with 53 car spaces, this in itself does not add up, as there are not enough car parks to staff car parking, and this is without its clientele and customers. The Maris Group state that there is sufficient other parking nearby to cater for the overspill. A direct admission already that overspill is in fact a given requirement within their proposal. What message is Prospect sending developers if that is allowed to happen? That the developers don't have to put their hands in their own pockets, and if they can get away with filling up our streets, and we won't care about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we do, because if this is allowed, what happens when the next developer wants to do the same thing? The requirement for non-residential development is 3 minimum, 5 maximum vehicle spaces per 100 square metres of gross leasable floor area. Thus, the minimum car parks for 3,362 square metres divided by 100 multiplied by 3 equals 100.82 to be exact. The maximum, given the same calculation, is 168.10. It currently falls short by 47% of the minimum requirements. We note also with many of those alleged car parks circled as possible catchment car parks by the developer, they are already fully utilised and currently provide for their own businesses' patrons, and the current 2-hour parking behind the Commonwealth Bank, which is the closest overfilled park, does not avail itself to the times needed to park, watch a midday movie, have a coffee, etc., and is already a busy car park with parking activities going on and in it all throughout the day. It was even suggested that people would park and walk from the council's car park rather than fill up the residential streets nearer to the complex. Comments that we resoundingly refute and say are based on nil awareness or how and what the normal person does, which is simply take the closest park en route to the venue. Thursday, Friday and Saturday parking in and around the High Street is already heavily congested, with customers already parking well down the 5 streets listed in the petition, and as residents don't have too much hard mathematics to work out what the impacts will be to their streets, their privacy and their well-being with the increased span of operating hours 7 days a week and finishing times of 11 p.m. till 12 midnight and beyond.
1 minute left.
Rose Street residents are massively concerned given the entrance to the complex is off their street. They are the most impacted. Add to this the changes to no right-hand turns on Myrtle, Vine and Azalea Streets means Rose Street has already experienced a large volume of additional traffic over the past 18 months. And with Rose Street being the only entrance to the complex, these residents are requesting that Council provides them also with a no right-hand turn to negate at least some of the extra volume. The Maris Group should also fulfil in meeting its minimum or beyond car parking requirements, or residential parking only should be provided to the petitioner's streets. The developer's proposal currently is nonsensical in its theory, states that it has support mechanisms in place with other persons' car parking, and it has not. It alludes to having an understanding of how people choose to park that frankly is completely illogical, and expects the residents of Prospect to pick up its overfill to accommodate its clientele for its own personal profit. We, the petitioners and residents, are saying we don't want to become the Maris unofficial car park for Prospect just because we chose to reside in the streets we live in, nor do we expect our councils to allow progress to invade us because of developers' failure to provide proper planning, and nor should we, the residents, pick up the inadequacies of the developers' projects.
Sorry, just don't interrupt you. 5 minutes is up. Do you have much longer to go?
I don't. Development is not progress when it fails to plan for people, place and future, and poor development planning should not be allowed to venture into prospects realising the vision high street policies. It comes down to getting it right now or never, and hence the old adage, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So we respectfully request that our councillors give us progress with proper planning.
Very well put, presenters. Do you have any questions? Councillor Barnett.
Yes. If you could just explain that we're only allowed to ask questions and not make statements.
Correct. I'm sorry, because there's a large gallery here, this may be your first interaction with council and you may never come back here again, and I'm sorry to bore you with so many rules, but you may wonder why we don't start having nostalgia about this. We are not permitted with a petitioner to have a debate, only to ask questions, and you may see me some councillors who are saying to have a debate. Under the Act, can't do it. When we move to accept the petition, all we can do is choose to accept it or not accept it, not have a debate about the merits of it. That is for another process, okay? Rest assured, we've heard the presentation and we've seen you all here. Please don't be dismayed by the type of discussion you see going on. They're the rules we're bound by. Carry on, Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I have 3 questions, and thank you very much for your presentation. And did you generally find people supported or didn't support the development?
Found that generally about 20% of the people didn't support it at all, and that 80% of the people wanted the progress, but not without the inadequate car parking as it currently stands. And that seemed to be the general consensus, that we want progress, but we want proper planning and proper car parking to go with the development of the high street.
And my second question, can you elaborate a bit more on concerns you've noted as you spoke to residents and businesses in the area?
Certainly. Okay, one of the concerns were that the developer actually hasn't stated how many seating or how many available seats in the cinema alone, without the other, obviously, office spaces and all that type of thing. There'd be full-day parking requirements for staff, and that would take up a lot of 53 spaces. Currently, there are a lot of issues that people are saying that there's nowhere for family, friends and visitors to park and visit them, and that that's become, that's just getting worse and worse. And there's a big fear, obviously, that without adequate car parking with this development, that's simply just going to run amok. People have said that although the football is at least seasonal, 7 days a week, that this is actually seasonal for certain parts, obviously, of the year. And even though that's full, that's tolerable. But here we're talking about 7 days a week until 11 p.m., 12 p.m. at night. And the last cinema is at 8:30, 8:45. You've got movies that go for 2 hours and 20 minutes. And just the on-street parking situation for 7 days a week with that span of operating hours is just an invasion. The additional traffic, obviously, going up and down the streets is going to be a huge imposition. Again, that span of hours operating late at night. And I do know that some of the places, car parking, other patrons, businesses, car parks, aren't really all that keen to avail themselves either, particularly to this development. So that's been the main issues that I picked up in speaking to 198 people. That would probably be the summary.
And my final question, how do you think that the current design of Rose Street is a problem for future demands for car parking and traffic management?
I think the design for Rose Street, to be honest, is quite a terrible design because they have the trees, the big trees are actually on the street itself, and often because of their placement and the way that the place is actually developed, I guess, over time, only small cars can park in between the actual trees themselves, and then the placement of where those trees are often negate the ability to be able to get a car to park there without actually being over someone else's driveway. And then the problem is also that they've doubled up, put trees on the football path as well. We believe that what we would like to see happen in Rose Street would be to actually remove the trees from the street itself and have them placed in the footpath. So, yeah, the design there isn't all that great.
Thank you.
Councillor Priest, any question?
Councillor Lee did put up her hands. I'll let her go first if she'd like. Okay. Look, thank you very much for that petition. I think it was very well presented, and I thank the gallery for coming along, and I'll just let you know that I'm 100%.
I thank them also.
Yeah, and I just let you know that I'm 100% behind your petition, and that coming up council elections, do you think this would be an election issue?
I'd have to top that back. I'd top that back to 198 people I spoke to, and also the people here. I think it could be. Look, I think that there's an opportunity here, and that people really care. You can see that.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
People really care about Prospect, and I think there's an opportunity for Prospect to really get this right. And given this is the very first of the large complexes that are being done, if we can't get the parking in something like this right, and the pattern bargaining that developers will do off of that, then we think we're in real trouble.
Look, I'll just let you know too, I'm 100% behind this petition.
Councillor Priest, your opinion, then a further question.
Yeah. And in your opinion, do you think that this should never have come to do you think that this should never have come to council? Sorry, to get that panel first, that actually council staff should have rejected this and sent it back to more better plans?
I do. We do, because 53 car parks doesn't even meet the minimum requirement. It's not even halfway there. So let alone beyond that. So if we are entertaining that type of, I'll be honest, rubbery flexibility with a complex of this size, and then I think we're in real trouble.
And my final question is, do you envisage all these petitioners here standing out in front of council with placards for the press to look at to really highlight this?
Do I think would they?
Yes.
I think possibly they would. I think the mere fact that we're here says that we care about our community, we care about Prospect. We don't want an invasion of cars. We want a community that we can reside in that is progressive but properly planned.
And the councillor thought my question was laughable because she laughed at
Councillor, no debate. You've had enough fun. Councillor Lee.
And thank you for coming tonight, and
Thank
thank
you.
you for your good advice earlier. That was very helpful.
Thank you.
That's okay. Lots of times petitioners come to council not fully understanding where certain things belong, and I don't mean to be patronising, but you do understand. Do you understand that we actually cannot vote on this decision and we don't influence this decision at all?
Well, I've learnt that here tonight, and I did hear the word unbiased being mentioned earlier, but I'll be honest, it feels odd to me, unbiased, that we have the people that actually make the decisions not be aware of how the people feel, and that statistics and reports can go to a development assessment panel, and yet the people of Prospect can't be heard. Yeah, I find that a really odd, unbiased approach.
I guess I'm just asking that because people might get cranky with us, but understanding that we actually don't control the act and it's the development assessment panel that it's to. So just wanted to make sure that you were clear about that. And
I am clear about that now, but I'm also clear about, I think we're probably clear about how it works is extremely important.
So
Another question, Councillor.
another question about the car park between Rose Street and Vernon Street.
Yes.
How do you notice as a resident on Rose Street how well utilised that car park is?
Very well utilised. There are probably about a half an hour time frame throughout the day. I think when most people are probably picking up their children or something like that, maybe 3 to 3:30, where you might be able to find the odd, 6 or 7 spaces in behind there. But throughout most of the day, there's activity in and out of there for the whole day, and it's normally pretty full up. But as I mentioned also, for an overspill catchment car park, it's already busy, and also that the 2-hour limit doesn't avail itself as an overfill car park for this type of venue anyway.
Further questions from councillors? Just one from the chair. Again, a little bit about process.
similar confidence. Oh, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the question, are you aware that the development assessment panel and the process has its own public notification process? So people are written to and asked to respond, and all those responses have been received.
Yes, I think it's only, someone mentioned, and I could be wrong about this, but it's only 60 metres or something. Anyone 60 metres close to this, which would probably...
Ridiculous.
Yeah, it is ridiculous.
Yes.
For something of this magnitude and size. 60 metres, and I think there's I don't know how many people that would involve, but I would have thought 1, 2, 3 at best.
Quite a few, and lots have been received. And just so you're aware, they will go on to the staff and will go to the panel. And I'm also aware that the process talks about the project on its site, but is unable to deal with what council may or may not choose to do up and down the street. Be aware that that's a different process that you can initiate, or council can initiate, with or without the development. That might be shifting the curb or putting parking restrictions in place or residential permits.
So residential permits would be acceptable. To be honest, I think most people just see the rest as band-aids because it's not going to actually solve the problem. Restricted parking just means more movement in and out, more installing of cars, more banging of doors, more people vying for the same, parking bay, and yeah, it's really seen as
deliver Band-Aid solution.
That's okay. The question was, are you aware that there's actually multiple processes, and that treatment of the street is a separate process
What
which we can...
multiple processes mean?
The DAP process is just about approving the application on that site. What we do with the street can't be done by the Maris Group or any other applicant.
And does that mean that it's about also the car parking
Yes,
in that?
yes.
Yep.
But if you wanted, if the people in Myrtle Street or Rose Street wanted to change the nature of the street, that can be a separate process at any time.
Right.
Okay, so just letting you know. And
Like
just
the trees and some of the issues.
Exactly right.
Are you debating?
Thank you, Councillor. Any further questions from Councillors? Councillor Harrison, I can come in late, probably picked up the thread, but you've missed a presentation.
Yeah, so I don't want to muck it up and try and ask a tricky question,
Please.
like I see some of the tricky questions coming. But my only comment is, right at the moment, not my only comment, my only question comes from, because I go to Piccadilly, which is close,
Yes.
and the problem or the answer, one or the other, comes. So it goes, you've half said what I heard you say. Yes, very important that what the Mayor said to you. I'm asking, do you now realise that if you or us can't do anything about the picture theatre, that you should be, are you willing to be looking at doing parking? I hate sort of have to try and twist these questions around.
What is your question, Councillor?
Parking permits. Yeah, the reason you can't go to the Piccadilly is because everyone's got a parking permit because they live there. So are you aware that can happen here too?
We're extremely concerned about that. You know, the fact that there'll just be some sort of, rather than make the developer provide the necessary car parking, that there'll be this quasi on-street car parking, again, where people can park for 4 hours, 2 hours, and we already have a serious problem where our family and visitors and friends are saying it's really difficult to come and visit you because it's just so damn difficult to find a park anywhere near you. And so the last thing we want is a Piccadilly situation where, you know, people have 2 hours and 4 hours because that, quite frankly, that just compounds the problem. It really has to be residential parking only, or it's just a worse, we believe, a worse situation.
Okay, thank you. There's no further questions.
So moved. No, I was going to move the motion, that's all.
Just let me get organised.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Fine with me.
Please thank the petitioner. If we could go and advise the other councillors that we've now heard the petition, but if they choose to come back in. Have you read this? Any questions from the council?
No.
I'm sorry, no, we're not permitted to. If this came to a workshop, that would be a different matter, but even then it's quite strict. But can I just say, both this process and the other process, yes, happy for you to provide a physical copy of the petition,
Yes,
please,
okay.
yes.
Thank you.
Right,
Yeah, would you
right
mind?
up to me would be great, thank you.
Good to Greg over there.
What I don't want to do is to, thank you, is to compromise the decision. Because once council, the panel decides to do something, we don't want someone to attack the decision and the decision then goes to court and we lose at court, okay? Now, the decision might be made in your interests and someone attacks it and it falls over because it wasn't made legally. So if you're wondering why I'm being so strict, that's why. I want the decision to be intact, whatever it might be, and I try and do it as best I can, and the Development Assessment Panel Chair will do the best he can as well to make sure the integrity of the process is maintained. Now, what's happened, speaking of which, to our three councillors?
For the Chair, I can advise that they've decided that they will wait, given that there is now a quorum.
There is now a quorum, so they're not going to participate. Okay, thank you. Councillor Barnett.
Oh, I'm going to move the recommendation.
Want to move it? Sure. That's the recommendation on page 1185.
Correct.
To speak to it.
Yes, and indeed, so I think we've heard quite eloquently from the head petitioner about how frustrating and complex the development plan regulations are, and really local government bureaucracy quite often gets in the way of people who actually live here, have their major capital investment of their house here, and is trying to balance up the needs of the community economically as well as the people that do actually live here. So I move the recommendation as printed.
Thank you. Councillor Priest, the seconder. Wish to speak?
Yes, I do. Look, I thank everybody for coming tonight, and the petitioner spoke very, very well. Look, I do urge you to stand out the front of council.
Sorry, through the chair.
I urge the members of the public to stand out in front of council with your placards and get the horns turning and all that sort of thing. I really push you and urge you to keep pushing this, because without you people coming here tonight and standing up for your rights and standing up what you think is best for Prospect, instead of a few people here and some developers, come and stand up to your rights and placards, stand up with your placards up front of council, and I'll be there with you to support you. And I second this motion, and I thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further debate? Councillor Harris.
Yes, it's a fairly easy one to support because it's a trivial one to support because it's just accepting the petition and then we follow through. And as we know here, it goes to the DAP and it follows the process. So I hope through the DAP people that they do look at the central thing, particularly the parking, more than anything else. I believe we should have a Prospect Road. I believe we should have things happen to it. So that side of me doesn't question it. But I got worried when we first saw it, and some people's argument, not around this table, but some people's argument about, oh, well, the parking's okay because it just fits here. I don't believe it does. We might not have the power to be able to change it, but I support this and I support whatever action goes. I'm not sure if I should do a Bruce and turn around and throw myself on the deck, but I've stood in front of my houses when they pulled them down. So
Democracy is the people that we should be able to stand in face of the people. They vote us in.
Thank you, Councillor. I might just ask a question from the Chair, because the Council report talks about the status of this, and just in terms of the petition, does specifically talk about a review of traffic management and car parking. Just want to direct review. What reviews have been done, and what will the panel see when they... Cool, thank you. Do we have any further debate?
I'd like to ask a question if I can.
You've already spoken, a brief question.
It's a question, simple as that. The comment that was just made there about the staff have looked at the parking to hand over to DAP. Are we allowed, and we can't tonight, but are we allowed to ask that councillors can see what we're going to put, particularly about parking?
Yeah, it's a public agenda and it comes out on the Thursday before the panel meeting, which is the 8th or 9th of September, is that right? Correct. Yeah, the panel meeting is Monday the 8th. Monday the 8th, so on Thursday before Monday the 8th, it'll be up on the website for you, Councillor, and anyone else who might be interested to have a read of that report. And the meeting is on the 8th and it's a public meeting.
That's once our power's finished.
Well, hang on, that's when you talk about our powers. The panel has the decision making. And that's on the 8th. Okay. Any further debate?
No, I thought that.
Okay, that concludes debate. Councillor Barnett, you wish to sum up?
No.
All right, all those in favour of receiving the petition, all those against, is thus received. Thank you for participating, everybody in the gallery. That's the end of that matter for tonight. Council's noted the petition, and I've no doubt it will be provided to the applicant. Those of you interested in turning up at the panel meeting, please do so. We'll make sure the gallery is available. It is in the same place. This date is on Monday the 8th. Yep, at 5.
Yes.
5:30. 5:30. Sorry, Nathan's brand new. He's 2 days into the job, so I'm a bit of pressure on him here. And please come along and let your presence be felt in the room. And the same rules apply. You're not permitted to speak, but you may hear people talking at that meeting who wrote in the public notification period, and they may have requested the opportunity to speak, and they are permitted to speak, and the chair will arrange that. So you might see people come out of the audience to speak upon request. Thank you for your interest in this matter tonight. As I say, you're welcome to stay for the balance of the meeting if you wish, but if you leave now, we won't take any offence at all.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you.
She has the questions ready.
And I would like to
No. She has the questions ready for you what each other says. Yeah, you can have that.
The details are on the thing anyway,
That's the only from here, I think, and I think it's much ridiculous. Dirty word. Always believe you should punch someone in the face, at least on the ground. Do anything because 3 reasons that are built. I know you as well.
Okay, I've worked with previously with the government and doing the project. And it's funny.
Yes.
And most properties? Yes.
Oh, pardon, most properties.
Yeah. Yeah. He has got my details as well. Lizzie and Anne both got details. Yeah, tomorrow will be the best because in 2 advice on my legal team about the age because I have been advised in writing, like I was told. Category to go today, and the first 2 top lawyers are barristers and the counsel. Yeah, that's tomorrow.
So didn't you get those things when they come on the email?
So why wasn't the code? Why didn't David do a code of conduct on that? That's a threatening email. It's a threat. No, he's not an insurance.
That's why you put that.
Yeah. No, he wrote that. He wrote that.
Yeah.
That's a threat. That's my opinion. That's causing intimidation and threatening. Now, David's response to his email says he's wrong. Well, why might not want that one. I think we'll be the first one to read the code of conduct.
I've never moved the code of conduct against you. Not ever.
I know for sure it would happen.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry, I didn't call a brief adjournment, so there wasn't one, so please resume your seats.
Well, you got to carry
Dixon's brought up that photo conduct against me again because of the gallery. He wanted to really get in front of the gallery. By having one of those ones. I expected there some minutes.
Okay, thank you, members of council and those who are remaining in the gallery.
Questions about notes?
Regarding federal and other issues, so welcome to you and a lot of staff and a potential candidate. Welcome to all of you. We'll now move on with the rest of the meeting and go to deputations, which we have Jill.
Is that all we're up to?
Item 10.
Is that where we're up to?
Yes. I'm trying to keep track of it. Item 10 is deputations are nil. Motions on notice we have nil. Declaration by members of a conflict of interest, do we have any? Councillor Barnett, you wish to declare?
Yes, on item 16.2, Community Support Fund, I declared an interest being a member of the Preferred Committee and also a member of Prospect Local History Group.
And Councillor Group?
Same item there, member of Prefer or member of Treasurer of Prefer, get my words out, member of the Multiple Birth Association and member of Friends of the Library. I will be leading the meeting.
Member of the Friends of the Library, 2 minutes, Secretary. Any further comments? Councillor Roberts.
I'll just declare an interest in the same item. I'm a member and sponsor of Broadview Football Club and Prospect Broadview Bowling Club.
Broadview 3 and Prospect Broadview Bowling. An interest in item 16.2. Any further declarations? Declare from the Chair an interest in item 16.2 as well. As a member of the Prospect Kiwanis. Oh, huh?
I'm not a member of Prefer anymore, am I? So, that's right, I forgot.
Now, on to item 13. Call over of reports. We'll adopt them on block if they're not called out. Item 1.1, report of the Chief Executive Officer Performance Review Committee.
So called out.
14.2, report of the Audit Committee meeting on 18th of August. 16.1, aged care reform, home and community care. Does anybody wish to pull that one out? Sensible to me. 16.2, community support fund. Anybody wish to pull that one out? No? After all that. 16.3, review of delegation. Pull that out. Alright. 19.1, development assessment panel complaint handling policy. This is a workshop. Anybody wish to pull that out? No. 19.2, introduction of the development assessment significant development variation regulations. Anybody wish to pull that out?
Yes.
Councillor Dixon. 20.1, Council of the Future report, submission to the Local Government Association of South Australia, LGA. I wish to pull it out for a slight correction. 20.2, job registration fees amendment. We will pull out. I will pull out and discuss why later. 20.3, Memorial Gardens place-based redevelopment stage 2 to go to consultations. Anybody wish to pull that out? No. Item 20.4, review of video recording of council meetings and workshops. Status report. Anybody wish to pull that out? Councillor Harris?
Just so I can vote against it.
Well, a little laugh on you, that's why. 20.5, the fourth budget reviews. Anybody wish to pull that out?
Yep.
Councillor Dixon. 20.6.
Yes.
Broadview Sports and Recreation Precinct Master Plan. Councillor Priest, that's the one.
That's the one, yes.
20.7, Milk Depot Leasings. Anybody wish to withdraw that one? Councillor Harris. Okay, now someone move on block 16.1, 16.2, 16.3, 19.1 and 20.3. I heard Councillor Dixon and I see Councillor Priest. Move Dixon, second Councillor Priest. No debate, all those in favour. Against is carried. All on block, thank you. Item 1.1, report of the CEO Performance Review Committee meeting 7th of August. Councillor Priest, a brief reason why you pulled it out.
Just to bring it on the table for discussion.
And you wish to move it. You like moving things, Councillor?
No, because I'm going to speak against this getting a pay rise, so no, I won't move it.
Anybody else wish to move?
I'll move.
Councillor Dixon, wish to speak to it.
I concur with the report. The rise is merely CPI. Almost say we've got no choice, but yes, the CEO has performed extremely well. You know, if one reads the report, how can you say otherwise? Read the contract, read the support, look at how we are perceived. The classic was our new councillor, our new director that joined us, and in the meeting why we asked, he simply said, just Prospect is thought of so well out there in the community amongst state and local government. And whilst elected members and the mayor have played a big part of that, it doesn't happen without a good CEO. And in my experience, he's been an excellent CEO with an exceptionally good team, and it's just CPI.
Thank you. Second, Councillor Britt.
Yes, thank you. Just very briefly to echo some of the words Councillor Dixon has just spoken. I've been on the CEO Performance Review Committee for 4 years, my entire term in Council. I think we're very lucky to have the CEO we've got. It's a shame he's not here tonight, although I'm sure he'll be watching on YouTube very soon. We should be really grateful that we do have him. The 3% rise is, if it is on. Indeed.
Well, I just check. He's not tuning in live. He's that unwell.
Terrible, outrageous. But look, it is 3%. It is not an unreasonable increase. The key performance indicators we set for the CEO are very rigorous. It's not just a flippant, let's give him 3%. He has to go through that fairly arduous process twice a year with the committee where we look at the key performance indicators and we rate him accordingly. And not only that, we also have his peers and elected members of the staff also rate him each year. And so this isn't just something that a couple of people sat around the table and decided to do. I think it's very well deserved. I commend our CEO. I think he does a great job. And we'll definitely be supporting this. I hope it's a unanimous decision.
Any further debate, Councillor Barnett?
Yes, as a member of the Performance Review...
Councillor, please sort this out.
Quite right. Sorry, Councillor Barnett. I correct myself not under the Act but under our meeting procedures. Councillor Priest, you should speak to the matter.
Yeah. Look, no, I'll be voting definitely against this. Directors get a pay rise either.
Councillor Barnett.
Yes, as a member of the panel, I echo what my fellow councillor Groot said, that we spent quite a few hours on this, and all the procedure that has gone on before. The peer reviews, etc., and some of the things that I've noted that the under the CEO Part of our measurement plan is what the strategic plan is, and the business plan, and quite a few other indicators that he has made. He's delivered approximately 98% of council's operating projects and within budget. I might add a very stringent budget. Progress has been made with customer service and infrastructure requests, with a significant reduction in complaints and delays in the last few months. I came on board, that was one of my big beats, and so I don't say that lightly, that I think that there has been a genuine improvement made in that area, and the staff to be commended. It's not to say we're perfect, no organisation I think can claim to be perfect, otherwise I think we'd be wondering. So I'm quite happy with that. I took into account in reaching the decision, the account, the benchmarking of Metropolitan Local Government CEOs, and as of August 2014, just stop me anytime I'm stuck in I shouldn't be saying, but I think this is all right to say. The City of Prospect CEO is towards the lower end of those salaries, compared with the average salary of the CEO, and also there was comparison made with the South Australian CPI year to date, which is 3.1%. Nationally, it's 3%. And so it was thought fair that the Prospect CEO had no more increase other than 3%. Also, I think that Mark can say honestly, and if Mark's watching, good, but get well soon. Mark, our CEO, generally maintains a low profile, and he's a more behind-the-scenes person. He's, from what I can gather, he's quite highly thought of in government circles. The other thing to note, I think, is that there's been much effort under Mark and his staff put into improving financial management practices, and we've been assisted by the audit committee, and also our independent auditors have recently indicated that there are no issues that they can find. So I think that's just part of the picture of what we look at when we make these decisions as a committee.
Thank you. Very well spoken.
Brief question from the Chair.
Spoken, but I'll take a brief question.
Would you be able to take that in parts, please?
Yes.
We've done it previous years.
Yep. Further debate? Councillor Lee?
Not really a debate, but I do find it quite important to say that the CEO is quite deserving of a 3%. He works very hard, and he also, and Councillor Barnett said he works behind the scenes. Even more than that, he encourages behind the scenes. He brings the best out in staff, and he's taken Prospect from a mattress shop to something great that all of South Australia.
Point of order.
Point of order, Councillor Briggs. It's quite insulting that the council says that Prospect is a second-hand mattress shop.
Insulting to the people of Prospect.
Thank you for your opinions, not a point of order.
No, Councillor Briggs, great listening skills. He
picked it up.
Taken.
Hearing problem.
Sorry?
Never mind, carry on, Councillor.
So I just wanted to stand up in support of the CEO and to say it's been a great pleasure working with him over the past 6 years. And as a Prospect resident myself and a ratepayer myself, I deeply appreciate the changes that he's made in the city and the move towards opportunity for the younger generations. I hope my children stay in Prospect and benefit from this era of Mark being our CEO.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Roberts.
I'll be supporting the motion tonight, and being 3%, which is currently the CPI for 2014. But I think what other councillors have said, that Mark is a very genuine person, but his hard work, I don't think goes unnoticed. The only concerns that I did have, and I have raised this with Mark, so it'll be no surprise to him that I'm staff turnover at the directorship level, whether some people see that as a negative or some people see it as a positive that they're going for higher positions. But for our rate payers, I'd like to see a bit more stability there. And I've spoken to Mark about that, and he sees it as a positive that staff are flourishing and moving on to bigger and better roles, but it's also given us the opportunity to promote people like Chris and Ginny into new roles, and new director Nathan. But overall, I think I would like to personally see Mark more out on the front foot, and being a bit more of our spokesperson and being in the limelight more, to take the focus away from elected members and to see the CEO a bit more steadying the ship should be for our council. So, but I will be voting for that tonight, and very well deserved.
I was problem with the act of that last idea, but any further debate? Councillor Harris.
I thought I'd better say something, because being part of the committee that went down it, and I don't want to go to the last paragraph first, because I think there's some more other things. The last speaker that talked about directors are moving on and things like that, that was actually raised at the meeting, because I have a concern with that myself. So that was actually raised. So these things did come up, whole lots of various other ideas came up, where he's going, where he's coming to. So it wasn't just centred around things. I don't want people to take advantage of this. I have a thing about the wage rates and things like that, because we're fantastic people in the library and depot and other places. They don't earn those sort of monies. But I have absolutely no problem with percentages, that, you know, this is what we're going to vote for. The wage, particular way, or salary I think they call it, happens to be there, so that's the position of that. So definitely, because I was there, I put up my hand then, and I'm going to put up my hand now. But I hope those same sort of figures and dollars come when other people in the City of Prospect go for their various EBAs and pay rises. But I'm going to support it.
Thank you. Everybody's spoken. Councillor Dixon, just to sum up.
Only on one issue that came up, and that's the senior staff of the flat. I spent a good many years in my corporate life with IBM, and the industry saw IBM as the leaders of the industry. And we were absolutely always having our staff go, because people saw them as the best. And they were, the training and everything that was provided. And that's just as the new director has shown us. He came here because of how Prospect is seen. And this is what makes people take your people. And we should be proud of it. I am utterly proud of the fact that they have come to take the people that they perceive to be the ones that have put us on quite something of a pedestal. And it does puzzle people. I mean, I'm on several boards and a couple of local government boards, and they constantly say, what the hell is it that you're getting all of this press and all of this great feedback? You're a pissy little council. How come? And it's because people like you, Mr. Mayor, councillors that were prepared to vote to go ahead, one councillor that sits here that has voted against everything we have ever done in terms of Prospect Road, Churchill Road, all those other things that people acclaim us for. In the main, it's been driven by the CEO, yourself, and those that were on board. So when people do move on, and just think of how talented some of those people were, a great loss, despite the fact what came afterwards were fantastic as well. We've lost some great directors, but for no other reason, they really felt with the development they had the courage to go for bigger things. One of them is now a CEO in a Brisbane council. Another one has gone on to a very senior role at Tea Tree Gully. That, you know, they have moved on to bigger, better positions and being paid vastly more than they were ever paid for our cost. We tend not to pay people as much. So I don't have any issue with that. I think it's a sign of good times at Prospect that people want our people.
Thank you, Councillor. That concludes the debate. All those in favour of item 1? Yes.
Sorry. Sorry, I'm in favour of item 1, sorry.
Sorry, I'll call for a division. I'll do it again. All those in favour of item 1? All those against? Thank you, Chair. Yeah. Carried unanimously. Item 2, all those in favour of item 2? Against? It's carried unanimously. I think no one put their hand up and against it. I think that's sort of, anyway. Item 3, let's be a bit more precise here. All those in favour of item 3? All those against? It is carried.
I'll call for a division.
Those divisions been called for. All those against the item, please have your name recorded so the CEO can read it. Also,
He can hear. And he can watch. In 3 weeks' time.
Okay. Next item is item 14.2, and that is a report of the Audit Committee meeting held on the 18th of August. Councillor Priest, let's do it a brief reason.
Just to bring on the table, and I'll move it.
Move to it, Councillor?
No.
All right. Yeah, just beggars belief. Is there a seconder? Councillor Barnett, as the committee member.
Yes, I do. I think the Audit Committee works very hard. We have huge agendas, if you're looking, sort of like this. As I noted before when I spoke previously about how, you know, our the financial reporting has improved, and the Audit Committee is in a sense a bit of our watchdog, and to make sure, you know, that it has a plan of things that it has to achieve, and therefore I think you can see from the reports before you. So I think you should also note item 10.3 of that report, the annual business plan. What the Audit Committee acknowledges the quality of the presentation and the high standard of the report. I think your papers, and also the Human Resources Review and Audit is to note that going back to the previous item, that was one of the things that we discussed with the CEO, and so we're noting that that is being proceeded with, and I think over 90% of staff, I think, appraisals or all that sort of type of thing. So I commend the report to you and the work of the Budget Committee and the staff connected with it.
Okay. Any further debate, Councillor Dixon? And then
Yeah, look, I think Christina, in fact, mentioned the item that is quite crucial to this report, 10.3. And that is, the Audit Committee acknowledged the strategic decision to go ahead with the PLECT investment on a 3-year period. That is to say, as a council, we made the decision because interest rates are incredibly low at the moment, and with the undergrounding of the Telstra infrastructure, currently they pay 2/3, we pay 1/3. It was a phenomenal opportunity, a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, to us do the entire completion of Prospect Road and only pay 1/3 of the cost, with the state government picking up 2/3 and a very low interest rate. They've also noted within 10.3 that although that this year our operating result will be outside of the financial indicators, the long-term plan just fits beautifully within the requirements of the long-term plan set by the LGR. And I think from that point, and also within this budget session, we are completing Churchill Road, the southern end, which was left off from the last. And again, in the council making that decision, we saved almost 1/3 of the cost compared to what we were quoted just 3 years ago, because with mining falling back, a lot more of the building companies were prepared to give us a much tighter quote. And the saving is something in $250,000 against what it would have been 3 years ago. I think they really recognised that council made the right decision to go ahead with these two projects, and the long-term financial plan utterly supports that decision.
Thank you. Further debate. Councillor Harris, did you not?
I wasn't going to, but then I heard those beautiful words. I was actually raised for a question. 14.2 we're discussing, and report of audit committee meeting after recommendations on page 1202 to 1204, and I've got them in front of me, but I can't see any recommendations, and I just want to ask what they are.
That's in their report.
1202, at the top of the page, says the following recommendations of the committee are submitted for adoption. So
all those that say carried.
Yeah, the council to adopt them all.
All right then.
On the committee structure, this is one of the few that we have now. So it's for council to carry these at council level. What you see before you is simply what the committee's done.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your explanation. So I will just finish by saying that I'll support it, and I thank the previous speaker, because when I read 10.3 B and C, I saw nothing there about the beautiful end of Prospect Road and not Prospect Road, Churchill Road. I saw what was written in front of me. So I'm sorry, but I will go along with it. But I also like to knock a bit on the head of the myth he says about the mining industry. We might not be selling things, but they've still got hundreds of thousands of workers working within the mining industry building.
Thank you. Councillor? To that report, but yeah, report. No further debate. Councillor Priest, you wish to sum up?
I think enough has been said, and I second what Councillor Wright has said. Comrade.
What's the divisions?
We did everything tonight. That concludes debate. All those in favour? Against it is carried unanimously. Next item that was withdrawn was item 19.2, Development Assessment, Significant Development Variation Regulations on page 1303 by Councillor Dixon, brief reason.
Hang on, haven't got it yet. Just about. Which one was it?
1303, the
19.2.
Introduction of Development Assessment, Significant Development Variation Regulations.
It's 19.2, you said 13.
$3 million rule.
Thank you, yes. So it's 19.2, is that it? Yes. Yes. Look, I would like to see a bit more in the recommendation to the LGA to make it abundantly clear. I have an amendment that I'd like to move. So I won't
We need to say this juncture, so you don't wish to move it. Okay. Does anybody wish to move it to get on the floor? Councillor Priest.
Look, no, we've had a lot of great debate about this.
So I think there's enough been said over the period of months, I should say.
We haven't debated this before at all, Councillor. This is a brand new item, brand new regulation, but thank you for your speech and moving it. Do I have a seconder?
I'll second that for the sake of debate. I'm still trying to find it on my iPad.
Councillor Barnett. Councillor Dix.
Oh, yes. Jazz, have you got the amendment that I emailed you a month ago? Thank you, happy to. My concern with this, if you look at it, it just simply says, it's just a statement of fact to the LGA that we're not happy that they're going ahead, but not giving them a reason to argue the case to the state government. And to me, it's a lot more. Why they've set the bar so low at 3 million, I do not know. These days, you can almost build a mansion on a residential street for 3 million. Okay, this is what I'd like to add. And it reads on. It's a direct read on. So that have a development value exceeding $3 million, a particularly low value, entirely inconsistent with the description given in Schedule 10, Clause 20 of the relevant regulations, which are to be of economic significance to the state, $3 million, hardly likely, or where the assessment of the proposal would be best achieved under a scheme established by the Department to the Minister to facilitate the assessment of such developments. You know, if this was the Lacornu North Adelaide Shopping Centre, you might have an argument there. It is important to the state. It's massive amounts of income and retail. But this is a cinema. Well, if you take the example of the cinema, it's a cinema and 6 shops, and that's 12 million. You could hardly call that to be important to the state. So in this particular case, I just find it quite extraordinary. They set the bar so low. I think it is worth bringing it to the attention of the LGA. These are the points they must discuss with the state government. To look at that level. And the second point, consideration of such proposal by councils that... Oh yes. Within the blurb here as well, it mentions that council could get involved in spending a lot of time on this, and then the commissioner might decide to take it off us, and we lose the fees. So it says in the report. That did puzzle me a little, but that's what it says. So, you know, this really affects the bottom line and the budget. As I said, that's likely to incur budget implications. If we get a whole stack of people and then the, is he called a commissioner? It's a something commissioner. I can't think of his name. Coordinator General. If they then, for one reason or another, decide to take that onto themselves and leave us out of the loop, our fees are blown. They take those too, according to the report.
You want to ask a question about that?
Why shouldn't I ask a question? In the report, so who do I ask you to these days? You. In the report, it does mention, as I mentioned to you earlier, that it does mention we would lose the fees. And in the report, it does say that's likely to incur budget implications. So could I ask, is that the case? They would simply remove the fee for us, despite the fact we've already done the work?
I'll ask the question, Director.
Yeah, thank you. Now, through you, there can be a number of situations where the Coordinator General gets involved. It can sometimes be before Council, therefore we as a Council wouldn't have received any fees and therefore wouldn't have lost any. However, we would still incur that staff time because as a referral body, which would be our role in that case, we would use staff time to perform assessment for which we haven't taken any fees. I'm a little unclear myself as to whether or not once an application is lodged with Council, the Coordinator General can that's certainly something that we can take on notice and issue with an exact answer. But
my reading of the regulations is they can do that up.
Through the Chair, I believe you're right.
Right on.
But I will furnish you with an exact.
Thank you, Director.
So,
Excuse me, sir, before he finishes, I'd like to say a point of order, which I think I've only ever done twice, that revolves around a question.
Well, they don't like to say a point of order.
Okay, situation is, well, I'm looking at now in my brain, thanks to the speaker, all I can see is the cinema at $12 million. Can they take that off us? I didn't think 3 of us here were allowed to discuss that. And I'm asking the question more than the point of order.
I can see that. Yeah, it's certainly not a point of order, and the 3 elected members on the DAT have been fully advised about their responsibilities and obligations, and also what they need to do to make sure that that decision is made properly. I can't say much more about that.
And we are not discussing it at all, we're discussing the cost, which is public knowledge.
So another point of order, resume please, Councillor Dixon.
Should go with Councillor Priest, I hope it was pretty good.
Oh, he was
Now, as to the second part, consideration of such a proposal by Council that would require detailed assessment, which is the point that the Director just made. Our Council would not receive any fees associated with a referral to the DAC, thus likely to incur budget implications. I wrote it that way because I don't know whether we would lose fees if they paid any, but certainly if we assessed it as part of the process before they took it, then we would put in a lot of staff time and we would incur budget implications from that point of view. It may be worse than that, and perhaps the director can find out that we might even lose fees already paid.
So just in part 2, if I can, while you speak, it doesn't read well in terms of advising the LGA.
The Local Government Association is advised. Oh, look, could you change is, by the way, Local Government be advised. Is advised doesn't.
Fine.
Be advised. Yeah, I suppose to me, council, yeah, the whole thing, I suppose, was part of the advisory.
So your addition to part 1 works fine. It just flows on with a comma after 3 million. But your part 2 is irrelevant.
Well, if you don't want to say about that. But, all right, well, the Local Government Association be advised of that too, if that's what's needed.
Just say no.
Well, council notes such a proposal. Council notes proposals over 3 million would require detailed assessment.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I would have thought if that went to the LGA like that, they would read it and understand that it's informative. That's what we're simply doing. We're informing them it's likely to incur budget implications.
Your motion, Councillor, your amendment, sorry.
Oh, look, if you feel it's necessary to state the obvious, I'm okay. It's more to point out to the LGA, it's not just the 3 million, it's the effect where A, they're setting the bar too low, and B, it could have budget implications on ratepayers. So that's the message I'm trying to get across for LGA to put to the state government.
Okay, thank you. Anything further? Well, given that amended plenty of opportunity, it's a stickety-boo. Therefore, so do I.
I just want to read it. I think they'll correct.
Do I have a seconder for the amendment? No. You'll move. Nearly 8 years, but I'm getting there.
I'll say.
The councillor group, you wish to speak to it?
Look, no.
Further debate on the amendment. That being the case, I'll take a vote on, sorry, there's no signing up. All those in favour of the amendment? All those against the amendment? Amendment is carried and now forms the motion. Any further debate on the motion? No? Councillor Priest, do you wish to sum up?
Yeah, look, it's a good amendment, and I thank the councillor for bringing this amendment to council. I think this is a very dangerous thing that the state government's doing. It's trying to take more and more powers away from councils and local governments, where it's trying to take all the power for itself. This Labor government stands condemned on this action that it's looking to take. More and more it becomes a dictatorial government. I think that is quite the fact now. So I'm happy to move this motion as it's formed.
Thank you. All those in favour? Against is carried unanimously. The next item is 20.1, the council report submission to the Local Government Association of South West Australia. The report on page 1311. I just wanted to check something which I thought might benefit from a small change on page I wish I had doggy it. 1323.
On which page, sorry?
1323. So that's why I'll withdraw on it. I will take liberty of just expressing what it is. I think it's a very minor change. Last paragraph, third column, 1323, says that we as a body would be prepared to look at a commission if it is not just another bureaucratic layer. It's the next line I'm worried about, although it would be unworkable unless amalgamations happen first. Success would depend on role and function. just don't think the words, although would be unworkable unless amalgamation happened first, sums up the feeling of the group on the night. And I'm not sure it's necessary for that, our feedback on that either. So if people are happy to delete that line, then I think that would make our feedback clearer about that commission.
Sorry, could you just say that again?
Page 1323, the last paragraph, third column. Just to delete the words, although would be unworkable unless amalgamations happen first. Which is really a comment about another topic, not this commission topic.
It's up there on the screen, Christina.
Thanks.
So someone's happy to move that way as per that.
So moved.
On page 1311. Thank you, Councillor Priest. You wish to speak to it?
Enough has been said over previous months.
Yes. So the seconder. Councillor Dixon, wish to speak to it?
Look, no, I think, as Councillor said, we've really nailed this one, and it would be hard to add anything, really.
Okay, thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Group, and then Lee.
Group first. Look, I just want to say two things. One is that I'm very supportive of this report. We'll certainly be voting for it. I'm still concerned that we're going into a really significant period of potential change in local government when we're just heading into an election period as well. And I suspect that we need to be really clear that whoever picks up the mantle, both this council, the other 67 councils across South Australia, continue with an agenda of change and looking at how to position local government in the best possible way going forward. I'm just a bit concerned that we lose momentum through the next 3 or 4 month period, and people that come on to council, into the LGA, into other positions may not have the same view or desire to, I guess, process some of these change processes that I think are actually very important. The other one, and I've harped on about this the other night when we talked about the workshop, but I'm going to say it again, while I support the sentiment in the paper around voluntary and involuntary voting, so making voting compulsory, I'm still concerned that will have an undesired effect in local government here. I will support it. It's in there. We agreed as a group that we thought that was the best way to go. It's a word of caution for me of how that goes. We're a long way from that anyway, but I think if we can get some way of electronic voting as part of that process, that might be a really good win for us as well. I think that's the positive to take out of that particular part of the report, is looking at how we can engage community differently, engage community better, and certainly encourage people to vote in local government without necessarily being compulsory.
Thank you. My reading is your comments are summarised.
Yeah, look, absolutely, and thank you to Manager of Governance who did a very good job. I was going to mention that, so I'll just stand up and say it again. Thank you for summarising. There was a lot of debate over a couple of weeks, and it's been summarised very well. And those comments I picked up, so thank you for that.
Yeah, Councillor Lee. Just stretching one arm. Any further debate? No. Councillor Priest, you wish to sum up?
I think enough has been said.
All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Next item, 20.2 dog registration fees amendment. I've withdrawn it because it technically we just think it'd be better to have a rescission motion to get rid of the old before we adopt the new. So it'll come back to us in September. Oh, maybe on the night for the special meeting. Yes. Just to make sure we do that properly. It's only a very minor change of notice, but we just want to make sure that it's done squeaky clean. So it's on the meeting agenda, but I'm just urging you not to move it, and it'll come back to us. So if we're okay with that, we'll move to the next item, which is item 20.4, the review of video recording of council meetings and workshops.
Councillor Harris.
Page 1352. Councillor Harris has already expressed a very brief reason why he removed it, but just wish to repeat that.
So I can vote against videos of workshops.
So I guess you don't want to move it? No. I have to ask you. Councillor Groot, you're happy to move it?
I would love to move it. And it's very, very rarely that I would ever disagree with my colleague on my left here. But tonight's one of those very few times. Not you, actually. Weekly. No, look, I just want to say that we made a pretty brave decision a little while ago to record not only council meetings but also workshops. And, we're not quite a viral hit, and that's okay. But if you look at some of the numbers, council meeting in June, 160 people looked at that, and 31 looked at the summary, which is not bad as well. 130 looked at the council meeting in May. So certainly there is a level of interest in the council meetings, maybe not so much in the workshop, and I accept that, but certainly in the council meetings. I think it's a fantastic thing we do. I think I've been put on record in the past, both at the LGA, AGM and also here, that it's a good way to ensure some transparency, and also I talked in the last item about engaging with the community. It's another way of doing that as well. I'm very supportive. I'll be supporting, this is nothing more than a report to note what's going on. It's not making a decision about whether we continue or not. As I understand it, we will continue doing this until we make a decision otherwise. I think there's some good points about the software upgrades, and that will make life a bit easier for uploads and so forth. But thank you to staff who do have to sit through 2, 3, 4, 5 hours of footage each Wednesday to make sure it's all right. So thank you for that. Thank you for the report.
Thank you. Seconder, Councillor Brett.
No, I don't want to. I just want to ask a question. Is it possible to split that council meetings and workshops, to split the council meetings at 1 and workshops 2?
No. Thank you for asking that.
The question is, why not?
Because that's what's been publicised. If something that's been put out on the public agenda that is in parts, I can, but I can't rearrange it.
That's okay.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Barnett.
Yes. Yes, just concurring with my fellow councillor on my left. And I think it's very much driven by when we started off with a Prospect Digital Hub. So following on from how the digital world can enhance what we do and what we deliver, and now is what is more and more expected from our community. So I think it's great that I think it'll gradually become I won't say more popular, but more widely known about, and so people they don't need to come here and they can just watch it and all that. The only thing is that I really hope we'll be able to reach a point sometime that the technical quality is greatly improved. I've learnt that I'm not to sway. Apparently, I'm not doing that.
It's a technical issue, Councillor.
So it's a technical issue that I have to try and keep more still. So I shall watch this one sometime and just check what I look like and hope I can improve.
Splendid, Councillor. You look splendid. Any further debate? Oh, sorry, Councillor Harris, if you wish to speak to the motion, given you pulled out. Don't have to.
I've had my opportunity and I missed it.
You actually get another one under our meeting procedures, but you don't have to avail yourself of it.
Okay, I will. The only being, and I will, my brother over here, that maybe life does move on and we have to do these things. And when he says 131 or 160 people tried to look at it, I listened to that with great sort of thing, because that might have been me trying to watch it one night, going click, 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 and couldn't get it to work, and I might have done that. So I tried to watch the one that had somebody in particular on it, and I still couldn't find it. So, but I am a little bit concerned, because I think with workshops, I feel it's a bit more, when we're in a council meeting, and it's even with people sitting around, this is not so much even just that we're all very level-headed, and hopefully the future people become level-headed, and we have those sort of discussions. And that's it. But a workshop, I feel it's a little bit different, whereas people should be able to raise something that might end up being a bit, not so much silly, but wrong, but it makes them, give them that area of thing. If you've got this thing here poking in your face, you're not going to make a fool of yourself, and election times and all those sort of things. So I personally don't believe they should be at workshops, to give us that bit more freedom of making mistakes, for want of a better word. So that's why I'll be voting against it. But if it was split, which I understand it can't be, so if it was split, I'd vote for the first one, not second.
Okay, thank you. Any further debate? Sorry, Councillor.
I'm, as I've always been, as far as workshops are concerned, rather ambivalent owing to the cost. The figures that the councillor quoted, I'm sure he knows, because he has a reasonable idea of technology, are so utterly rubbery. When you're talking about 17 or 18 people clocking into a workshop, that could almost be one person.
My whole family? My whole family listens.
But when you log in, I mean, for example, if I happen to have mine on battery and at home I set it very low after 5 minutes to kick on, you get bored to tears, you're going to do something, come back again, I have to log in again. I've logged in 5, 6, 7 times in one incredibly long, and I'm sure other people do that too. You log in, you log out. The councillor's admitted he's 15 each time. So the figures are so rubbery. They start to count when they get into the many, many hundreds and into the thousands. It would be interesting to know, and something we can do, is work out what the IP addresses are. With the IP addresses, then we know if they're individual contacts or they're just multiple from the same, which are quite valueless.
Give them an amendment.
Workshops, councils obviously seem to work a bit better at 130. But it wouldn't surprise me if half of that number was simply the same IP. I wouldn't be surprised at all. Certainly the figures they talk about in these online surveys talk about 50 to 70% overblow. Now when you've got 10,000 people in, it doesn't matter. If 5,000 aren't there, you've still got a fairly good figure. When you're talking 19 or 20, which might in fact be 5 or 10, what I would like to do is find out what that's costing us, because that too is an element, because we're now learning that the amount of staff time that gets involved in going through these things is very considerable. Hours. Now, if that's the case, at least we should know so that we make our decisions in the full light of the effect it has on our budget. We're a council that for 3 or 4 years have forced the staff to hold the FTE level. You can't add 5, 6, 7 hours a week and maybe longer in a council session and not recognise that must affect the capability of the council to remain within its current FTE. And this council has fought very hard to keep our FTE levels down. Very, very hard. Quite successfully, and again, I'll take my hat off to the CEO, and especially this year with 2 or 3 people leaving, it's been a saving of something like $50,000. You can't keep doing that if senior staff are eyes into recordings, checking, whatever else they do. So I would certainly, and in fact I might move for a report in general business to take a look at that, because I would say myself this is a very important part of making the decision. I'll go along with it for now, but I don't necessarily hold to that. The cost of the community totally outweighs us recording workshops. And so once we have that report, I think we're going to be a far better position to make that decision.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. Councillor Dixon raises some good points. It would be good to see the report, but also I do believe that we still have to give it time. It is very new, and I think the more that we keep persisting with it and talk about it, I think there's been a number of people that I've spoken to that have looked at it. I know that Curtis most probably looks at it quite a bit during council meeting times, but I think it is a technology that we have put in many of our strategic plans, that we want to be known as the place of technology. And then if we sort of all of a sudden just turn around and say, oh, we've had 19 views, so we're not going to plug away with the $5,000 machine and just cut it off, I think that would be very immature. But I do believe that we should get a report just to see what the costs are. But I did have a question. The council meeting summary, I don't remember seeing that anywhere by the council that we passed for a meeting summary to be done. But I may have missed that, so I just wanted to seek clarification.
I wasn't sure about that. What is the council meeting summary that's been referred to? The answer to that? So you just come forward, George.
Sorry, I can't hear you, China. Received by a staff member through YouTube site.
Sorry, I'm just unaware of what the summary.
Well, I might be able to. I thought the council summary was your very good suggestion.
But thank you very much. I don't do it very often.
Bit of once.
A bit of once.
31 views.
When I and the staff get organised, we do a summary, and I probably should do it more often because it's so people running through 2 hours. They can decide whether they want to look at the whole 2 hours, I guess. So yeah, thank you. That clarifies it. And it is unfortunately a bit ad hoc, Councillor.
So why we won't vote this ad hoc?
Well, we're voting here to receive and note a report.
The council summary was the question. So, Councillor Roberts, back to you.
Thank you. That was all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further debate? Councillor Priest.
Yeah, look, I concur and support my councillor on the right here. I'm for councillor on my right here, Councillor Harris, good comrade. Sorry, what was that, Councillor Lee? I didn't hear you. You want to speak for me?
Through the chair, Councillor Comrade.
Look, I'd support this if it was just council meetings being recorded, but as Councillor Dixon said, the workshops cost a hell of a lot of money to record and staff time, so I'm voting against this. If it was taken in parts, it would be great at council meetings and workshops, but as you said, sorry, what was that, Councillor Lee?
There's one recommendation.
I didn't hear you. Sorry, through the chair.
I'll take it
Through the chair. Is Councillor Lee the chair or you the chair?
Through the chair, Councillor. Just confirm, I will take the one part in parts just for you.
Thank you.
Councillor Group, choose to sum up.
Oh, I'm not so much to say, so little time. Look, I'll just remind all councillors, particularly two on my left, and it's not much. What we're voting for here is just to receive a report. We're not making decisions about anything. Councillor Dixon makes a good point. If we want to see some costs associated with it, accepting what's already in the report, of course, then of course we need to get a report, and then we can make a decision on both on something. And I think it's probably for the new council to make a decision on whether they want to continue with this initiative or not. I would remind us, though, of course, that we received a grant in part to do this. And so, part of this was about us being early adopters of technology, and I think we're doing that really well. But another part of this was a grant condition that we actually became, we espoused our values of being a digital organisation. We have the hub, we have our very expensive piece of equipment in the middle. But we then made a decision to do workshops, and until we rescind that decision, we're doing workshops, I suspect. Look, I support Dixon's view to get a report. I wouldn't want to spend, a lot of councils, a lot of staff's time doing a report that tells us it takes a little bit of time to do this. It would seem a little bit, the cost might outweigh the benefit. And look, if they're out of the 160 council meetings, if Councillor Barnett's clicked twice and Councillor Harris has clicked 15 times and others, then maybe it's 100 people or 120 or 30. Councillor Lee's clicked not at all. But whatever it is, it's still better than nobody clicking. And I think that's the point that can't be missed. Thank you, Councillor Barnett, for your click. The other point I was going to make is look, I don't know what sort of time.
Right, well, you're doing well holding it together. I'm carry on.
Oh dear. Look, the report suggests that the time taken, apart from the financial cost upload to YouTube, is effectively somebody reviewing the footage, in which case we're talking for workshops 2 to 3 hours, for council meetings sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. So I don't think it's a large impost on council time, but I'll wait for any report that might or might not be coming later on to answer that. And look, just to finish off, I think 4.2.2 summarises the need to do this most succinctly, where it talks about making sure the lens cap remains on during recording. I suspect that should be off during recording, and make sure we don't have the lens cap on at all times, so that we can see ourselves later on.
Put that in there. Thank you. That concludes the debate. All those in favour of receiving the report? All those against? It is carried. Next item withdrawn was the fourth budget review, item 20.5 on page 1363. Councillor Dixon, brief reason why you pulled out, and do you wish to move it?
I wish to move it, and much of the reason I did is right there on the board. I mean, what a fantastic result in the 4th year of the term we've just been through. Council approved the revised projected operating surplus of the full capital amount of $250,250,000 sitting there, despite the program we've been through. I remember back to the last election where people were out there casting doom and gloom because we'd borrowed money for Prospect Road, we'd borrowed money for Churchill Road, we'd borrowed money for the Oval, and yet we have met all of those exactly as we said we would, and our borrowings are well below the dashboard set by the Local Government Association. It's just extraordinary that we've been able to do that and come up with these figures. Projected net surplus, total comprehensive income amounts of $500,000 and a projected net lending position, such a key one, this is the one people rallied on and on about, we were borrowing too much, $1 billion. It is just a fantastic result when you particularly consider the program that we put together and the program that has absolutely received us plaudits from state government and right across local government that we achieved. And it's been really an achievement across 8 years. 4 years of the previous council and 4 years of this. Admittedly, all the decisions and the like in the main were made in the last, but this council saw them all through. And here we sit at the end with a fantastic position. And the lending position really lets us know that if the Net Council want to do things, they can do it. There is money there, there is adequacy there is capability there is capacity there to look at what else we might want to do. And there are still some big projects that we need to look at to continue to make this a better and more successful city. It is a fantastic result, and I recommend the report to council.
Do I have a seconder? Seconder. Councillor Bruton, would you speak to it?
Look, just to say a couple of very, very brief things, echo the comments of Councillor Dixon. I think it is an amazing achievement that we've ended the year with the surplus. I just want to go back to a paper we talked about a bit earlier, which is the CEO Performance Review Committee. And we talked there about leadership of the council and leadership both from an elected member point of view but also from the CEO's point of view. And I think this is again testament of his leadership of the council. We've had a tough 4 years. I think I can count on one hand with a couple of fingers removed how many budget items I've got up in the last 4 years. I can certainly count in many hands those that I haven't got up. And it does put us in, it puts this council, not us, because we're just stewards for short periods of time, but it puts this council and this community in a very good financial position to go forward. It should be acknowledged. The other thing I was going to mention was the zero-based budgeting that we did this year, and I think last year as well, and that really positioned us as a council to look at things very differently. And that's no doubt a challenge for staff. I would find that very difficult in my job if I was faced with that proposal. And I think it's very difficult for staff to go back to the drawing board and have to justify every cent they spend. It's a good thing to do, but just acknowledge it also puts a bit of pressure on staff to go through that process. So particularly to thank Jimmy and Chris that led that this year and gave us partly the good result we've got. I think it's something we should be celebrating, not to spend the surplus to celebrate, but just to celebrate virtually the fact that we had actually got such a good outcome financially.
There's a debate. Councillor Bunny.
Yes, it is a good news story. The problem is when you come to do like quarterly budgets, you know, you can have three bad ones and a really excellent one. I think, but we have been quite judicious here, and when you think of there's always a horrendous time when you go through the budget process and you know, you can't do so many things, but I think we have stuck to our guns as outlined by Councillor Dixon. I think also of us who wanted to make sure that the footpaths and roads continued and had the appropriate amount of spending left behind, because that's always a problem. You know, it's very, very difficult to try and catch up. But and I think also that it's easy perhaps for about in the community just to home in on certain aspects, but you really do need to look at it, say, over the 10-year planning cycle, and that's what's set by legislation for most probably a good reason. So we need to still keep performing well, and I guess just from the other thing is that some ratepayers are saying, well, you know, end up with a surplus. How come, you know, our rates are the way they were? But we have to do what we have to do in a certain snapshot of time, and that's so. I don't think a lot of people understand that that budget cycle, and so hopefully we can be good at explaining that to our residents and our ratepayers. Mind you, I think we've only had one complaint that I understand, so I think that speaks some volumes most probably as well.
Further debate? Councillor Roberts.
Yes, I think it's a very good result, and once again, applaud to Ginny and Chris for the hard work, and also the CEO in carrying out the zero budgeting. But I do just like to bring Council's attention that obviously one of the significant favourable adjustments is salary and wages, so that we shouldn't get too ahead of ourselves, because that was a saving of $352,919. So that, you know, that could very quickly bring that back into deficit. So, but overall, a very good work done by all staff and also elected members in you know, passing our budget, and most of us in passing the budget, and sticking to our guns and fighting for what we don't get all our budget bids through, but we've decided to go down that path. But I just think we need to be mindful of some significant favourable adjustments to us, so and that we should be mindful of those that that can certainly change the bottom line very quickly.
Thank you. Any further debate? I'll just speak briefly from the chair, just for the sake of the messenger press, who may or may not be listening or munching on lolly, that for a council to achieve a surplus budget at the end of the year is not always the case. Things happen on the way through, and again, I commend the elected staff for working pretty hard at this. They know how important it is to us. Done a great job, and I just want to remind people that this hasn't happened easily. Yes, there have been some savings in staff costs, that is true, but equally we had a change in timing from the federal government with regard to when we received a quarterly grant cheque, and that had a very major impact on hundreds of thousands of dollars. We've had federal budget cuts to our supplementary road fund and to our financial assistance grants as well, so that federal budget wasn't friendly to us at all, and yet we have still managed to cope with that. We've also been able to, on the way through, not just cope, but do even better than we thought to cope with those things. But if you look at our long-term rate forecasting, since 2010, we've actually only dropped the long-term rate forecast twice in that period, from 6.5% projected to now 4.5% projected. And I think that's a very healthy place for us to be, and that's taken considerable effort by everybody in the room, and some of those who aren't in the room. That includes you, Mark, if you're having to watch in one of the 150. Equal to.
Sure.
And in terms of the results, you know, that the advertiser print, sometimes they get some of the facts and sometimes write some of the truth. We featured in one of the councils that cut staff expenses in the last year. And so what stood out there was that we're at the right end of the equation in terms of the public debate that the advertiser sought to start, even with not a deep analysis, but at least that shallow analysis. It reflected well on us due to our efforts. So those things should be noted by people, and I think Councillor Barnett said it well. How do you convey this to the public? It's very difficult to convey to the public. We are charged with doing our best to understand what the public wants in terms of service levels, understand their capacity to pay, and chart a budget that sails through that as best we can. It's not easy, and I thank you for your time and effort put into to working through that and supporting a budget that got us to where we are. Well, sorry, as Councillor Robert points out, most of you supporting a budget that got us to where we are today. Next year, of course, is a very different story for reasons that Councillor Dixon pointed out earlier, and we look forward with similar discipline to what happens with that, and hopefully we can have the same discussion in the fourth quarter review in 12 months' time for those of us that make it back on the council. Thank you, Councillor Dixon, for pointing it out. Any further debate? If not, Councillor Dixon, do you wish to sum up?
Yeah, just to mention a couple of things. So I don't want to take the shine off. Councillor Roberts mentioned that, and this is something you did mention yourself, Mr. Mayor, I'm going to amplify, mentioned that if you took the staff savings into account, that would put us into a slight deficit. However, what is further key, the previous federal government, to make their budget look good, made all of local governments look bad by prepaying the grant funding. So that if you were to look at last year's accounts as well, the 350,000, which is roughly what staff saving, is sitting there that was meant to come into this year, and thus would have cancelled that out anyway, and we'd still have that result on the board, but in fact slightly higher. But to make, and I don't complain about federal government, they always were promising a budget surplus. So they got stuck into local government up forward paying their grants, so they appeared in the wrong year. If you compare the 2 years together, fine. But the overarching thing that really matters is look at the long-term financial plan. That doesn't lie. It can be very tricky with year by year, and often the press make that mistake of looking at 1 year rather than looking at last year as well to see what happened, the interplay of purely how the accounts work. This year, of course, we didn't get the benefit because the new government, they didn't want to put up the money, I think at the moment because they can't get me through the Senate. But so it's double whammy for us. We expected it, we didn't get it. But the long-term financial plan we have is thoroughly in a great position. And when you consider within that we're doing 3 years of play and finishing off the south end of Churchill Road, it's just an extraordinary result. For the last 8 years, I've met every month to go through the accounting process and how we develop it and what we do. Initially with Justin, who then handed over to Ginny, and now Chris is on board. They've just done a phenomenal amount of work. They've put together a fantastic program. And I really appreciate, it's fantastic having Chris on board as well, because he really does bring a different brain into the issue. And it's been very rewarding.
Yes, concludes debate. All those in favour? Yes, carried unanimously. The next item pulled out is the Broadview Sports and Recreation Precinct Master Plan, item 20.6 on page 1394. Councillor Priest, a brief reason why you pulled it.
To move the motion and to bring it on to the table.
Work together very nicely, Councillor Priest. You just as the mover.
Yes, I do. Look, I really urge all councillors here to vote unanimously on this, because I think that Broadview Oval has been neglected for many, many years. And same with a lot of people over on that side of Prospect. It's missed out on a lot of things. I think it's really, really needed that we do vote unanimously for this motion, and the recommendation. But I'd also like to point out that although Nathan Cunningham's name is up here, the report is prepared by Brendan Lott, Manager of Community Development, and big support from Jessica Mazara. I hope I got that right, Jessica. Because Brendan and Jessica have put a lot of time and hard work into this. Spent a lot of hours outside of their normal working hours and preparing all these things and working hard over the last 6 years that this has been ongoing for. So I do thank the two staff members who have worked tremendously hard on this. I thank you on this. I do urge our councillors to vote for this. Councillor Dixon will note that there are figures involved in here now that you've requested, and I just hope that we'll vote for this.
Okay. Thank you. So the seconder, Councillor Harris.
Yeah, look, I want to second. I was very disappointed that I was lucky enough to go on a holiday and wasn't on the committee. Otherwise I would have, because, to quote my councillor on the left, they have gone for a long time trying to do things there, but actually I don't know where he got his More than happy to second where we are at this stage.
Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Barnett.
Yes, I think this has been and will be a fabulous project, and I can only hope that perhaps when the next state federal elections come up, that we might have enough money there to help develop this. It seems smaller councils like us, we don't attract those big grants that the bigger councils get. I don't know if this is something that we can work on at an eastern region, sort of level, you know, perhaps looking at some regional projects and put this into the mix. And I think it's been quite remarkable, and most probably like the efforts that have been put in by all the stakeholders there, the clubs and our staff and consultants have worked with them, that they all, you know, agree with it. So I think that's been a fabulous outcome too, and hopefully if you get them all pulling together and all such a positive thing happening, well then that will make us another, even though it's a baby step, towards getting some things done there. So hopefully instead of, you know, perhaps each little club doing its own little bit of fundraising, doing its own little bit, that now we've got this fantastic precinct plan, we might be able to perhaps pull together a bit more and work on some things a bit more together. And it's really great, I think, that I've said for quite a few years that I would really love us to be able to have more of an emphasis on for our residents over on the eastern side of the city. So I think it's just well done to everybody, and let's see if we can't get to making it work.
From the chair, I commend the work together to come up with a master plan, and there's certainly a lot of merit in what's there. I just express caution around the price tag, $14.6 million. And when we go out to consultation, I'm not sure, Councillor Harris, what you're going to say to people, and Councillor Priest, who's always railing against overexpending and borrowing money. I'm not sure what you're going to say to people out there about how we're going to afford this. The fact that the budget was only discussed at the end of the process, I found extraordinary. I just am concerned that we're building a community expectation up that we will find very difficult to meet. In terms of the long-term financial plan Councillor Dixon spoke about before, there's not a sense of this, you know, 10-year financial plan. So when we talk to the community, and I will be too, saying this is fantastic, we've got to get their expectations in the right place. And that is, I think Councillor Barnett put it quite rightly, we will need to seek external funds. I don't think this can happen in the absence of that, certainly not factored in our plan, or we'll need to do a lot of work on our financial plan over the next few years to work out how we fit this in. That is a lot of money. So I think it needs a further round of work to fine-tune it and work out what happens first and perhaps what doesn't happen at all. But I just urge people who are talking to the community about this to get people's expectations in the right place, because this can go pretty pear-shaped if they think that we are able to do this, that this is an offer, and if they think, some people might say, well, I'm going to do anything, which is, of course, I wouldn't agree with that at all, but let's be careful here. And certainly it's time to get people's feedback on the designs. There's no doubt that we need to give the community the potential to have a look at it and tell us what they think. And no doubt I'll be talking about traffic issues and parking, and I think they're well considered in the master plan. Of particular interest to me is the tennis quadrant, because we know that we have, and in the report it states very clearly, Tennis SA are interested in a regional facility, and for me that looks like it's potentially stage one of what we might go looking for. And so they're my comments. A lot of hard work. Thank you for the hard work. I'm just concerned about how we have the conversation with the community, and perhaps the staff are listening, and you can pick it up when we talk to people about it. Thank you. Any further debate? Councillor Dixon.
I think Council's been aware, the elected members have been aware all the way through that state government funding is a very big part of this decision. And nobody here is going to put their hand up to spend this sort of money unless state government really get involved. Certainly your comment is right, none of this is in the long-term financial plan. But what is good are borrowing situations to fund that element we will need to fund are good. But I'm quite certain nobody in this council now or in the future, unless the state government are prepared to come across, and or federal government, and more likely, but how they're going and how they see this at this moment in time. However, a federal election is never too far away, so by the time we know this dead, that might be the case. But look, I'd like to agree with Councillor Priest. I think it's done a fantastic job. I think this is one of the best things I've ever seen them do, compared to others in the past, back in my first term. I think it's been sensational from that point of view. I'm dragging this on because I have one point to mention, and it's just escaped me. I'm hoping in a brief pause it will come to me. But seniors
You can fill a button for 5 minutes in this.
Well, that's the good thing. I have been part of it.
You've got 3 left.
Oh yes, and it's something actually Councillor Priest reminded me of. We almost went out on this without figures. And that's something I believe we should never do. You have to involve your community all the way through. The budget is a big part of making these decisions. And we almost went out in public consultation with not a penny on the agenda. And that's just so essential. Community. The key, of course, is to have a good patter behind it as to, no, we are not going to go out and do this unless that the funding is there and it fits within our long-term financial plan. And I'm quite certain this council and or a future council will respect that, I'm utterly sure, and they'll get good advice from
Further debate? Councillor Roberts.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, no, look, just to echo some of what Councillor Priest did say, that the hard work from the staff, especially Brent. Most meetings were after 5, so and organising that many people was a good effort. But just a couple of points that I would like to raise and maybe just seek clarification through the Chair. So with this type of funding, I'm guessing that we would have to front up with 25% of the costs, which would be about 3.6. Would that be right? Is that the normal structure, or?
I'm happy to defer to a director. My understanding is that the Rec and Sport grants, which have been cut under the previous government, now returned, 25% if it's a shared grant with a club as well as the state, up to a maximum grant of $250,000.
Sure.
That's under the Rec and Sport funding scheme. The federal grant we received for the Oval was out of the Rudd government's stimulus package, which has ceased.
Yep.
Sorry, Director, did you have anything further to add?
No, through the Chair, I think you're exactly right to say about the Rec and Sport grants. Something that we were keen to do is explore a variety of grant options, particularly through a staged approach, and I think that the community, through the consultation process, will provide us some guidance on its priorities.
So with that said, I mean, I think it's more incumbent than ever, is what the Mayor said, that we have to set the expectation early in the piece, and I know that certainly Bruce and I have been doing that throughout the piece, that it is incumbent to see what type of funding there is around. And once again, why I sort of echo that we make sure that we have a harmonious relationship with all forms of government. The final point, I think that Mark Bann and his team have done has been very good as well. And I think Mayor may have seen this through the state campaign, that it's important to have these type of products shovel ready. And if there's a pool of money out there at election time, we want to be on the front foot. So, and I think that's what the message we've got to sell in the community. All the clubs have been on board and have come a long way. Perhaps it might be a good point through the chair to the director, new director, is that when we initiated the grant, Councillor Dixon brought up a good point, engaging with the consultation, that perhaps, I mean, we left it to the last minute to get the funding model right, that perhaps it may have been a good idea to bring that in earlier. So that's maybe something that the director and the team may want to investigate, why the council or the staff didn't approve that up front rather than later, and because it would have been maybe not so good going out to consultation with a $15 or $14.5 million price tag. So, but all in all, very exciting for that area. Broadview is one of the most highly density areas, so it's very well used, the Oval, most weekends, by just not only the football club, and I know that that's been bantered around a bit, that it's for the football club, it's not for our community, and it is used by mums and dads and little kids most days of the week. So I will be supporting it to go out to consultation.
Any further debate? Councillor Priest, wish to sum up?
Yeah, I do. Look, it's been a good debate, and I thank the councillors who've said some very good things about this, and as we usually just thank all the staff involved, because it has a lot of time put into this. And I think it needs to be said that all along we've always said that this is going to rely heavily on state and federal government funding. But not only just that, but also the clubs are going to have to do a lot of fundraising themselves to help put in a lot of money into this as well, not just council. Because we will be expected to put money into this, but I think it's up to the clubs, all the clubs, and it is unanimous decisions, but all the clubs will try and raise money and heavily involved with it, pushing us as a council, our state and federal government, to help fund this project that I think is very urgently needed.
All those in favour? Against? Carried unanimously. Next item, Milk Depot leasing, 20.7, page 53, pull out Kid himself, Councillor Harris. Brief reason.
Two concerns about, and they send around the 1 year lease.
Okay, so you might move an amendment. Is that what you wish to move it as it is? If you want to move an amendment, I recommend you don't.
Okay, look, I'll move it, and then I'll just say my concerns about it.
Up to you.
Table. You just want to get on the table.
No, I've got it on the table. Let someone else move it.
Okay, Councillor, please have it moved.
Yeah, I'll move it. Just to get on the table for debate.
You do have a seconder.
I have got amendments, so
I will.
Barnett, happy to speak to it.
No, just that it's good to have something done about it.
Yeah.
So shouldn't I have been asked to speak to it? Because I moved it? You did?
No, you
I did, yes.
said.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Councillor Harris.
Okay. The only concern that I have is, and we did discuss it, and in fact I think it was actually how it was brought from the director halfway anyway, that to make, I look at the master plan that we're doing on there and the other places, and in looking at the master plans, I don't see them being finished in 12 months and 6 months and 8 months and then having money to move on. And so to me I had that concern, not as deeply I think as the director, that if we put something up for a lease 1 year, I don't see a big market that you're going to sort of pull in, who's going to put in their gear and all this stuff and in 1 year have a move on. I didn't agree with the 2 and the 2 sort of setup, because I saw that as too long, that we would be doing hopefully master plan and those sort of things. But I will support it because other people will, I will imagine. But my concern comes that perhaps we should have said the 1 year, you know, and then give 2 years in total. So that's where my concern was, and I've just heard something from the minister in my other ear that will most probably make me happy. So I'll wait and listen to that, but if it doesn't, I'll still support it. But that is my concern, that I don't think it will be such a good market just for a one-year proposition.
Okay, so thank you, Councillor. I'm just looking at the report. The body of the report suggests a 1 + 1 year, but you're right, the motion now says 1 year lease, doesn't mention right of renewal, but I haven't heard it's a 1 + 1.
On top of it says 1 or 2 years. Exactly where you read. You read agreement?
Underneath that there's option to renew, say 1 + 1. Yeah, so I might just ask a question on your behalf for all of us, Director. What's the intention? Is it simply a 1 year lease that you're intending, or is it a 1 + 1 year?
Somewhere it said 1.
Regardless of what might move next, what's the intention of the recommendation?
There it says 1.
Through the Mayor, it was a 1 + 1. That was the intention.
Okay, thank you. So let's just clarify. Councillor Dixon, you wish to...
Yes.
Sorry, that's not what it says up there. That says 1 year, not 1 + 1.
Yeah, I know. That's why I've asked the question. When you're doing a 1 + 1, it is a 1 year lease with a 1 year right to renew. So it should be referred to fully as a 1 + 1.
Exactly.
But what the Director's saying is he's not excluding the second right of renewal as the body's report. I'm hoping Councillor Dixon can make it rock solid concrete his speech and possible amendment.
All right.
The councillor is so right that the shorter the term that you put on the table, the less you can attract people. When it was mentioned by the director at the meeting, 2 + 2, you might remember I really rallied against it because it takes out 4 years. One of the benefits of having a 2 + 2, of course, is you broaden your scope. So in the meantime, I put it to the director that he speak to M3² or whatever, that we do have a 2 + 2, but with a redevelopment clause after 18 months. Most contracts these days have a redevelopment clause, particularly in the latter years. So if somebody wants to bowl it over or change it or build a skyscraper on top, they can give 6 months' notice to determine the contract. My suggestion that I asked the director to bounce off is that we have a 2 + 2, but at the 18-month mark, so for 18 months they're fine, and a 6-month redevelopment clause. So for the first 2 years, exactly the same as the 1 + 1, they have absolute confidence they can stay there. But in the second term, at any time, we or the new owner, should that happen, will be praised, that they can either determine the contract at the time, or if, for example, they decided to build down John Street first, they've got the option to leave that tenanted, making money in the meantime. That would be entirely up to us or the new owner 2 years from now. So by having a 2 + 2, we broaden, Councillor spot on, the longer the term, the more people to get involved. But crucially, with a redevelopment clause at the 18-month period, so it means we could end it at 2, which we could with a 1 + 1, or just let it continue on, always knowing we had that 6-month clause in our pocket to say, well, sorry, we've sold it for whatever reason, you have to go. So,
proposing an amendment.
I'd like to amend it to be 2 + 2 with a redevelopment clause. I mean, they're always 6 months, but maybe...
Wait until the Secretary catches up.
With a
+2 year lease agreement with a redevelopment clause. Carry on, Councillor.
With a redevelopment clause. Now, generally, it's probably worth putting in 6 months. Generally, it's 6 months anyway, but being local government, I'd rather actually stick it in the amendment that it's a 6-month. So it goes into the lease, otherwise...
Notice, so you say.
Yeah, there's a redevelopment clause giving 6 months' notice. After 18 months. So for the first 2 years, they're fine.
So agreement with a redevelopment clause effective after 18 months.
Thank you, yes. Effective after 18 months, giving 6 months' notice.
on or after 40 months.
No, it's very standard clause for It's in virtually every contract these days.
I've got one in my son's bedroom. Should have. Councillor, your amendment, happy with that?
Sorry to begin to achieve the order to negotiate finalise a 2 + 2 year lease agreement with redevelopment clause effective after 18 months, giving 6 months notice for the old depot. Pardon? Sorry, he said I missed it. Finalise a 2 + 2.
Wording is fine as it is, I think.
The Mayor's made decisions, I'm quite happy with that. Look, in effect, no different whatsoever to a 1+1, except it might widen the pool to somebody that really would at least like to think they have a reasonable chance to go longer than 2 years. There's no backstop, there's no effect to us. It just lengthens, it increases the pool of people that may be interested. And as an example, for those who think redevelopment clauses are odd, I know there's at least 2 landlords on Prospect Road. All of their properties have a redevelopment clause from day one. I personally wouldn't sign one with a redevelopment clause on day one.
1 minute left if you need it.
But this gives them 2 years, and then it allows us to work with a future developer. Because they would like to know, if they do want to start work on 2 years, they can say goodbye to the tenant.
Thank you. For the seconder to the amendment. Councillor Group, wish to speak to it?
No, I don't think
Any further debate on the amendment? Councillor Barnett.
I just wanted to test my math. So, if they're there for two years, right, and so 18 months goes past, so that means that they can...
The development clause is in the redevelopment.
Guaranteed, yeah, 2 years, which is what the 1+1 would do.
Yeah, but they might only be there then for through the chair there for 6 months.
The effect of this is that they would have at least 18 months unfettered, and then the day after 18 months, they might get a letter from us saying, please move out in 6 months' time, which means they have 2 years guaranteed. After that 18-month period, though, any day we can send them a letter that only gives them 6 months further.
So give us the 1+1.
Well, I prefer the explanation you're giving them up there, because to me that doesn't really make sense.
I'm sorry, I'm okay with it. It works for me, but leasing language is a bit like this. Any further questions or debate? Councillor Roberts.
I'm going to vote against the amendment. I would much rather see a 1+1. We need to make a decision on this milk depot because I think if we go down the path of 2+2 with a redevelopment clause in there, we're just going to sit in the same trap that we're getting into, where we've sat on the milk depot for
4 years,
and 2 years will come up, and then it will just roll into another 2 years. So I would much rather see a 1+1, so that it then brings it back to the table within, I would say, a year and a half. That it would bring back to the table council at the time, so they can make a decision whether they want to put a master plan in place for the milk depot or get rid of it. Otherwise, I think in 10 years' time, that milk depot is going to be sitting there in the same state. So I would much rather see a 1+1.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lee, on the amendment.
I understand Councillor Roberts' concern, but for me this makes more sense because 1+1 it could be sitting for 1 year, plus 1 year, plus 1 year, plus 1 year, plus 1 year. This one at least people can see a 2-year option, and I think that just broadens the scope for people. So it could still be sitting there for 2 years plus 2 years, but at least it's generating revenue for it. I just think it broadens the option, and it's still the same thing, but it just gives more scope. So I will be supporting the amendment.
Further debate on the amendment?
Can I ask a question?
Good question.
Yes, the question is, it's with the 2+2, the +2 is an option, isn't it? If someone just wants it for 2 years, yeah.
They can go. However, we're obliged to give it to them should they want it for that 2 years. In 6 hours. Development source. That's within. Effective this would be, they get a 2-year lease with an option to renew for 2 years, but we've got an 18-month freeze on a redevelopment clause, and then we can give them 6 months notice at any time. So they might get into their 2nd year, and the day after that starts, we give them 6 months notice and they've got to be out. So they only get 2 years, 6 months, for instance.
Yep. We control it.
Okay, any further debate on the amendment? That concludes the vote on the amendment. All those in favour? 3, 4. Those against? That is carried. Now becomes the motion. Any further debate on the motion? Give you a chance to second, Councillor. Councillor Good.
Yeah, I'm just going to say something very briefly. I thought the amendment might have gone through a little easier than that. Look, I'm as frustrated as anyone around the table that we've been sitting on this effectively for a couple of years and haven't made a decision. I think it's a fair criticism. I don't think anyone shies away from that. The reality is, though, for us to get this right, it's not going to happen in 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. It's going to take us a while to get this right. And it's going to take a new council a while to get their head around it as well. So I think with effectively what we're giving away is 2 years of lease. I think it will attract somebody for a longer term rather than just a single year. It may mean a bit of extra income for us. So it's not sitting there idly anymore. But I think we need to give ourselves, or more appropriately, need to give the new council time to work out what they want to do with it. And I think that would be easily a 2-year period before we're ready to turn a sod on the site. So I think it's quite appropriate. I just want to make that point. That's why I support the amendment.
Okay, thank you. Any further debate on the motion? Right, being the case, Councillor Priest, to sum up.
Yeah, I do, but I'm not happy with the amendment. I agree with Councillor Scott Robson and Councillor Christine Barnett. This is actually a thorn in our side. This milk depot has been a thorn in our side. I wish now that I had listened to Councillor Andrew Christie, who actually voted against this. He said all along it would be a thorn in our side. It was proven correct. We're paying an enormous amount of interest on this over the 4 years that we've had this. We've done nothing with it. It's been an embarrassment for us because all we've been doing is paying interest. It's sat there doing nothing. We've paid into a lot of interest, and now we want to give it another 2 years. As Councillor Scott Robson is correct, how long in 2 years' time we'll just roll over and give them another 2 years? I think it's time that we only did 1 year plus one, and we actually do something, sell it and get rid of it, and get our money, at least try and get our money back for the ratepayers and residents, so that we actually put that money into something decent like the Broadview Oval. $1 million we could put into Broadview Oval straight away there with that money if we sell it. So I'm not happy with this. I'll be voting against it.
That concludes the debate. All those in favour? Yes. It's carried.
I'll call for a
He's going to stand for us.
Those in the sorry, all those in the negative, please stand.
stretch. Platoon.
And one day when we do sell it and make them not so, I will remind people of this day.
That's what I just said. Sell it and make the money. Yeah, sell it.
You might not be sitting there.
Come on, mate. The minister's running the show here.
Chairing the meeting. Councillor Dick.
Before it was properly recorded. Having a negative, Councillors Priest, Barnett and Roberts.
Correct.
It is still carried. Thank you. And that concludes the on the agenda. Thank you, councillors. Back to the agenda, Council Diary, item 21. There's a whole heap of stuff there. Councillor Roberts.
I'd like to to see if we can make an amendment on the council diary through the chair, because the candidate briefing night, if the other councillors aren't aware, is not on the diary on Monday the 1st or 6th, 1st of September.
First up. Can we amend the council diary? Well, it's the agenda that's gone out to the public, so no.
I'll have it noted for the other councillors then that may want to turn up.
Certainly, it's well advertised. Of that, there's no doubt. On there, you can see the big Friends of the Library book sale, huge event, usually raises about $5,000. Councillor Barnett's and there, no doubt, as friends of the friends. And I'll be there, buying something hopefully. I'll work out when I read. Council elections nominations open on the 2nd of September, closing on the 16th. Club 502 is back in the Town Hall on the 12th of September. We have a citizenship ceremony on the 15th of September. Hope to see you all there. The ballot papers go out on the 20th of October. Back to you beyond our next council meeting. We're getting very They're staying on the minutes in the agenda, rightio. Council election voting closes on the Friday the 7th, and of course the scrutiny and count. Big exciting day on Saturday. Starting at 9 a.m. For those who want to scrutiny, looking at envelope opening
Of October.
November.
You can put the 4th of November on there if you like. That's my birthday.
Isn't that Guy Fawkes? Guy Fawkes, isn't the 4th of November Guy Fawkes on?
Yeah. General business, do we have any?
Pardon?
General business or raising matters of minor nature or according to report? Councillor Harris.
I thought Dixon would have one. Can you put the minister, because you might get mentioned in this one. Because I got here late, so I didn't have it with the questions, and then I saw all those people. I'm calling report is, I don't need a whole report. I'm asking the council to do something, in particular asbestos and the pits that you told me to contact people personally if I was interested. My concern is, and this is why I'm asking the council, my concern is I was very happy in the last fortnight to see them removing some of the pits in Emily Street correctly in a correct asbestos way, whereas the ones on the other side of the road they didn't. So I'm hoping through perhaps the director, rather than call for a report, do we find out, do they tell us where they remove asbestos from our footpaths? And if not, can we ask those people to let us know when they come across the asbestos ones in our footpaths, it's in their pits, in our footpaths, so we can keep a record of it.
Can I suggest?
I'm open to suggestions.
We ask for a memo on what information we can get and what's just happened. And if you're not satisfied with the memo, that you do raise it as an item of general business at the next meeting.
Okay, more than happy.
Okay?
Yes.
So it's a very interesting question. I'm not sure how the director will go getting an answer, but let's find out.
I think it might be all right now because they're supposed to be doing it properly this round. I think. Oh, what, you cut me off? Oh no, that was you.
Okay.
I thought you'd get it right.
Okay. No worries. Director will do his best. Hopefully have something to us in a couple of weeks, if possible.
Yes, it's most probably a minor nature for action for administration, but I noticed on Devonport Terrace there's an increasing amount of graffiti down there, especially near the Dudley Park Railway Station. The Sharrow poles have got graffiti on them. They're put there fairly recently. On the bike lockers, there's a lot of graffiti and other places. So I'm just wondering, I don't assume it's going to be fixed up before the Friends of Dudley Park Railway Station community dig there at 11 o'clock on this coming Sunday. But we can
like that. So thank you. And just to point out, Director, I have reported the graffiti on the bike lockers in the railway station environs several weeks ago. And if we can't get it done because they won't let us, for the working bee, he put a sign on the lockers saying when we contacted DIPTI, and let it be known to people that their lack of effort, not ours. Or if they do let us fix it, then let's get in there and get our volunteers in there. Any other items of general business for?
I'd like to call for a report, thank you, Gary. And I'm not going to put, I know you like it, the report to say that it come back to council, but to me that's taken leading obvious. When you call for a report, it's obvious where it's going to come back. So I don't want that in mind. A report be provided Oh, well.
When?
Thank you, actually, good point. A report provided on the costs associated with the video recording of council meetings and workshops. Yeah, costs associated. And workshops. Yeah. Actually, can't be too far away with a report provided. Yeah, look, I mean, I would think this is a very easy report to prepare. You know how much time you're getting done. But what I don't know, of course, is the level of the staff involved. So workshops, including hours and staff costs. So total number of hours and the costs associated. Yes, the CEO does part of it on 200 and something thousand.
I'm trying to die off about this thing, heresy.
Okay. Your motion, Councillor, happy with that?
Something gone wrong with this. A report provided and costs associated. Really? With the recording of, yeah, it's the including should be after workshops. So if you take that bit off, bang it in after workshops. Right, a report provided and the costs associated. The video recording of council meetings and workshops, including total number of hours and staff costs. Yeah, that's. So when does everybody want this back to us? Yeah, next council meeting should be January 10th. Next, it's a pretty easy one. Next council meeting, next meeting. No, we're going to have a special meeting in on the 9th. So next.
Really? What's about?
Next ordinary meeting. Thank you.
What's it about, Councillor Dixon? The special council and the council meeting?
For the waste care report. Because we have to get it in before we go to.
How come we still got rubbish bins in the
Are you still the chair? Through the chair?
Sometimes I wonder. Happy with that? Any further speechy items?
I don't think so.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Group, wish to speak to it?
No, thank you.
Further debate? All those in favour? Against? Carried. Any further general? Quick move on to general business. Urgent nature? Any of that? No. Confidential items are a nil. Meeting is closed. Thank you everybody for coming along.